This is the Tom Baby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in northeast Mississippi called Columbus, and sometimes I write about the rest of the state. And today I am going to tell you about an experience I had in an office here in town. First, I'm going to start with what happened to me uh, that led me to go to that office. Last week on Tuesday and Wednesday, and possibly Thursday, I felt like I was being followed when I was out at Friendship Cemetery. It was a white truck, it was a city-owned truck, and it seemed to be wherever I went and looked up, it was paralleling me on the parallel roads and stopped directly across from me. And it followed me in as I came into, like it was already posed in the cemetery, but it just followed me from the entrance. It was parked close by. Okay. So that was, and I thought, yeah, no, that's just coincidence. And then last Friday, today's Friday, last Friday, um, I was certain it was following me. And it, like I said, it's a small city truck. It's got a silver brushed aluminum frame over the back. And I thought it was strange. And then on Monday and Tuesday, it followed me again. And Wednesday, it was there. So it was so concerning that some of the maintenance people out there noticed what was going on and wanted me to be aware that I was being followed and they were concerned about it. They also said somebody had called animal control, and that seemed to arrive right as I left. Now, I do walk my dogs out there on a leash, pick up their poop. I mean, I'm a good dog owner. Other people walk their dogs out there. Um, I think most of them are leashed. But then there's neighbors whose dogs come in there and cats. Yes, there's cats that come in there. So, anyways, I just found the whole thing very interesting. So I asked the guy in the white truck, I was like, why are you following me? And he said, I was told to follow you. And I was like, who told you to follow me? He said, the lady who manages the cemetery. Well, whether she told him to do that, that's what he said. I didn't get the guy's name, but I should have. So I then went home. I made a phone call because I had been told that animal control was looking for me. Called animal control. And then they told me that they'd been called because a lady in a white van, me, um, was out walking two dogs. And that quote, the dogs had pooped on a grave. Well, that's not true, but whatever. That was just something somebody had called in. They had called it in on July 9th. Well, what's today? Today is the 18th. So when did I talk to animal control? That was day before yesterday. So, anyways, so I'm like, well, everybody in town knows me. Everybody in town knows I'm always in the cemetery. Everybody in town knows that I have, and the lady that runs the cemetery knows my name. She she should be able to find me. I'm not that hard to find. She even knows that I have a podcast. So, anyways, I was a little bit annoyed after I did figured out everything that was going on. And I walked up to her office. And I always record conversations that are in public offices that I know may or may not go in my way. And not knowing anything about this woman or her history, I just felt I needed to record the conversation. And I did. And that is on my YouTube channel, Tom Baby Tales. It is also on my Facebook page. And let's just say that when I confronted her about what happened, it went downhill quickly. So quickly that she started out somewhat professionally, and very quickly it ceased to be professional. And I was most disturbed by this. And she called a witness in. It's just a mess. She called in the administrator for the mayor. She called her on the phone and had her to be a witness, but she first tried to call the chief of police, and I'm sure she was going to try and have me arrested. So I was very glad I was recording. And when um, I don't need my reading glasses on from the top of my head until I have to read. When I uh, asked why she had me followed, she said she didn't have me followed. And then she said something very alarming. Get this. She said, "What are you doing that you are being followed?" So, in other words, blaming the victim. So that didn't sit well with me. And I tried to ask her how would she feel if it was her or her daughter or her sister or another woman that she was close to that was being, well, she wouldn't let me talk. She cut me off. Um, and the administrative assistant who was on the other end of the phone was was like kind of like, what the heck's going on? So she told the woman that she'd be right over. So she either walked over or drove over. I think she walked over. It's not very far from the mayor's office to here, to where this was. It's like a block, and it's like 2 blocks. It's a small town. So she shows up, and I know her. I mean, we're we're all on cordial terms. I've known her. She was the previous mayor's administrative assistant, and I was like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm not sure why I'm being yelled at, but here's what happened. And I told her. And you can listen to the whole thing. I mean, it's 31 minutes. Um, in the meantime, while the administrative assistant was walking over, now I don't know what a mayor's administrative assistant was going to do. And in the meantime, this woman kept trying to call the police chief, and the police chief was a little busy because there was the fire there was a police car that was involved in a rollover and people were injured, and there was another incident where a policeman was bit, for what I read in the paper, by somebody they were been pursuing. I guess the guy hid behind the washer and dryer in a house and they tried to extract him, and he bit the officer. So clearly the chief of police was a little busy and was not coming to the rescue of the lady who runs the Trotter Center and the cemetery and a few other things. And her name, by the way, is Regina Bonner. So it all transpires. It goes downhill really quickly. At some point, she says I'm racist, and I just told her, I said, don't you dare call me that. And as soon as I said, don't you dare call me that, she goes, you hear her? She's threatening me. I'm like, oh, for the love of Pete. The insanity of it is mind blowing. So the whole thing boils down to she wanted to enforce you can't walk pets in the cemetery, but she has no signage. There's nothing on the website. There's nothing on the city website. So it boils down to yesterday afternoon, they put up no pets in the cemetery sign. My lovely friends have been very busy photoshopping in pets, everything from giraffes to sloths to puppy dogs and kitty cats and parrots and macaws in the cemetery being pets. So I have wonderful friends. So if you could do Photoshop and you could do something fun, yeah, I thought it was great. Anyways, I think my favorite one somebody sent me was because the woman keeps telling me I don't respect her authority. She has no authority. She said they sent me this thing of Cartman, and it was like, and it's a sign, and it says "respect my authority." Anyways, I thought it was funny. It's sad, but I still have to laugh because it was so disturbing. It was so unhinged. I did lodge a complaint with the city's HR. Um, and I ended up, well, let me get to that. In the meantime, holy cow, I find out, I go home after talking to the person who's in charge of HR at the City Hall, who was incredible, by the way, very professional, just like the administrative assistant who came over there to see what the heck was going on. They were incredibly professional. They were incredibly going, you need to you need to do this, that, and the other. These are the logical next steps. If you still have concerns, you should do this. And um, anyways, so I did. I followed up. I went over to the city hall. I went and spoke with the person who's in charge of that. Um, I gave her I let her listen to the first few minutes of the audio that I had recorded of the entire event, and she asked for the rest of the video. So I sent that to her, and I don't know what they're going to do, but I can't believe that this person is allowed to be in charge of things that are public facing in our town. This Regina Bonner, but I digress. Let me read to you what I have. So apparently, I asked for what the rules and regulations were. You know where I got the rules and regulations? Not from Ms. Bonner. I got them from animal control. The person from animal control had asked for them. So apparently, these rules and regulations were adopted November 16th of 1976. And since 1976, there's not been any signs that say no pets in the cemetery and da 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 da. I think that their rule about no pets in the cemetery has to do with burials, which is a state law. It says, at no time will any type of pet be allowed in the cemetery. It's in the midst, that's the one line, item number 9. And that's in the midst of talking about about purchasing lots and what can be placed in the cemetery and what can't. It's right after fencing, tombstones, monuments, and decorations, and right before the fact that the city um, uh, that you have to pay money for upkeep and grave opening, blah blah blah, and that there's a deed. That's it. That's it. 49-year-old rule that can't be found anywhere. If the public cannot reasonably find the rule and there's no signage, then you can't uphold anything. And that's exactly what I was told by animal control. They can't even give you a warning because there was no rule until yesterday when they put up signs, which my friends have been having a ball with. So if you want some cheap entertainment, go to my Facebook page. In the meantime, I have some questions. So let's talk about what this person is in charge of for the city, because this is kind of disturbing. So this person is in charge of 2 cemeteries. They're both public. These are the 2 city-owned cemeteries. One is exclusively the former all-black cemetery, which is now full. It was during segregation. It was built before the Civil War, and then it remained as a segregated black cemetery until it was filled. And it would appear that the last consistent burials, there were a few plots afterwards, but mostly the burials ended in the 30s and 40s. But in the meantime, these and it's in really bad shape. There's no fencing. There's broken headstones. Although the city is mowing it, and as of yesterday, the guys who did the grounds yesterday, it looked fabulous. But still, there's lots of broken and overturned stones, and they don't maintain it. There's encroachment by the businesses. They've taken over. Acreage, and there's stuff going on that has not I don't know, I've got lag time here for some reason. Is that better? Okay. So what I would like to look at is first to discuss all the things that I am pretty sure that this person, all the facilities this person is in charge of. 1, Regal Hall. 2, the convention center. It's called the Trotter Convention Center. The Riverwalk facilities, Friendship Cemetery, Sandfield Cemetery. Now, there might be others, but I'm not aware of any. So, I'm wondering, what the customer experiences have been like for anyone who has had to interact with her. I have had some people tell me that it has not been the best. I've had some people tell me that some organizations say they won't rent there anymore because she's made it such an untenable experience and that the costs have been raised. I have also been told that she makes exceptions for some groups of people, some not organizations, but people who represent certain organizations or um, groups of her friends, uh, where she gives them a better deal. Now, that could be sour grapes. I don't know. That's just allegations. I have nothing to base that on because I've not seen anything that tells me thus. Um, that's just people grumbling. And, that could be people jumping on the bandwagon because I had such a negative experience. Um, but the one that I want to read to you has to do with another journalist. So, several years ago, there was a journalist. He still works in Columbus. He's the managing editor of the local paper. His name is Zach Clare. Nice guy, really nice guy, down to earth. He's just is kind and um, he's just really a nice guy. So this is the strangest thing that happened. So Zach um, did a public records request, and at this to this woman, Regina Bonner. And so here's the article of what happened. Um, Zach made a public records request. He asked to see it in person, which means that when he gets there, he can use his phone to take pictures of the content that he has requested. Apparently, Miss Bonner did not agree that he could take pictures, and she refused that. And he told her that yes, he could take pictures, that was part of an open records request, and that in this state that is allowed. And so she wasn't aware of that. Of course, she lives in Alabama, so maybe she doesn't know better. But also, uh, she then made some accusations against him and said he was rude to her and all of this, which is all the things she said I was. And so she called the police on him. And then 9 days later, she had him arrested. And so this journalist who was doing his job and doing due diligence and doing what he's allowed to do, but he didn't record that conversation with her. So it became her word against his word. And it ends up going to court. He got arrested. He spent 45 minutes in jail before he got bailed out. His employers, was backed him 100%. So here's the article after the event was done. After more than 3.5 years, misdemeanor charges against Dispatch managing editor Zach Clare were dismissed by Lowndes County Court Judge Allison Pritchard Kaiser Tuesday morning. Kaiser dismissed charges of simple assault by threat and disturbance of a business filed against Clare in 2019 by Columbus Properties manager Regina Bonner. Clare's case had previously been moved from Columbus Municipal Court to Lowndes County Court. Tuesday morning, County Prosecutor William Starks told the court that the state was unable to meet the guilty beyond a reasonable doubt standard on either charge and asked for a nolle pros, which essentially means to abandon the prosecution. Columbus attorney Rod Ray, who represented Clare, was funded by the Dispatch, argued the charges should be dismissed entirely as the nolle pros leaves the door open for them to be filed again in the future. And it continues. Kaiser sided with Ray, dismissing the charges entirely. The court agrees that the state could not meet its burden, and I do think this means the prosecution will not go forward at this time. Ray told the Dispatch after hearing, after the hearing that even if all the facts in Bonner's claims were true, they did not constitute a crime. It is not a crime to go into a business or an office and essentially make a scene, even if you don't make a scene. Just raising your voice and telling people this is not okay does not meet, it is not a crime. Maybe in bad taste, but it's not a crime. He told them, he said, there are elements to each crime, and you have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. The affidavits in this case were filed by a private citizen and were based on facts that are not criminal. Even if each and every one of these facts had been brought out in court, they would have not risen to the level of a crime. So, this continues. I applaud the prosecutor for standing up and saying that, Ray added. Bonner was not present in the courtroom and could not be reached for comment by press. This entire episode was a farce meant to discredit a member of the press who was investigating wrongdoing in Columbus city government. Dispatch publisher Peter Imes said, Zach was wrongly accused and arrested by city officials while at the same time one of those officials was blocking the legal duplication of public records. Multiple city officials across 2 administrations had the chance to defuse this situation and refused. These dismissed charges validate what we've known from the beginning, that there is zero evidence to support the claims against Zach. This is what happened originally. On April 9th of 2019, Player had an appointment with Bonner to review Trotter Convention Center rental records, which he had filed an open records request in order to review. The documents revealed that a city councilman had received a sweetheart deal at the city-owned convention center. When Player tried to take photographs of the public documents, an act deemed legal by the State Ethics Commission, Bonner told him he couldn't take pictures. So she's violating state ethics. Player responded that he could take photos as they were public documents, and Bonner called security and said she would call the police. She alleged that Player stood up and raised his voice, telling her to call then Chief Fred Shelton, according to a CPD incident report, and that he refused to leave the premises. Player left Bonner's office but remained in the building until police arrived. 10 days later, Columbus Police Department officers arrested Player in the Dispatch newsroom. Hang on, I lost my place. In the Dispatch newsroom and led him out of the building in handcuffs. These now dismissed charges have been a part of my life for the last 3 years and 8 months, Player said Tuesday afternoon. Throughout this difficult process, I've appreciated this unwavering support of my family and the Dispatch, along with the many well wishes I've received from friends and readers. I'm certainly glad to have these accusations behind me. So she has a history of bullying the press. I know that when I was there, one of the first things she said was, I know this will be on my podcast. Well, I wasn't going to put it on my podcast, but then I was told about Zach's plight. And do you know he was never reimbursed for his court costs, his legal fees, the Dispatch's legal fees, pain and suffering? Nothing. Nothing happened to this woman. She says in her own words that she has no marks on her record for her behavior. Well, I'm here to tell you that while she may not have any professionally over there with HR prior to this event, based on this, I'm going to make sure that there is a record, a written record somewhere of what she has done, because I'm not going to tolerate being stalked by an employee of hers. I'm not going to have animal control sicked on me and my animals who are leashed and picked up after and cared for, etc., etc. I'm not going to be bullied. This is an abuse of her power. And so, as a result of this, I'm very carefully putting together a collection of public records requests. And I'm looking for some very specific information. And so come Monday, I will have my public records request, my FOIA request, pulled together, and I will be delivering it to City Hall to uh, I will follow the protocols of the city because this city does have protocols, and the people who run this city are really pretty decent, honorable people. And I plan to then go to the next city council meeting, and I'm going to get on the agenda, and I'm going to ask some pretty difficult questions because this is not okay. It is not okay that citizens are being harassed by city employees. It is not okay that rules are made up and in from 49 years ago, and it's on a mimeograph piece of paper or a photocopy piece of a mimeograph. We don't know if these rules are real. We don't know. She says that they were adopted November 16th, 1976, 49 years ago by the city council. I need to see those city council minutes. I need to see the city council discussion that went into creating this document. I need to see that this is real because honestly, I don't believe her at this point. I also think that this thing about pets was that you don't bury your pets in there because that's a state law. Anyways, this is just the start. I plan to get to the bottom of this. I don't plan to do this instead of the Columbus Housing Authority investigation. I don't think you can do one without the other at this point. Was she retaliating against me? Because she says it's been 7 months since she spoke to me. Maybe it has. I just think it's funny that she knows how many months it's been since she last spoke to me. It's not something I would have kept up with, but okay. So I'm curious why she decided to start tracking me now. Is she friends with Mr. Grathry? Did somebody put her up to it? I don't know. I don't know why this happened now. So it makes me curious. It makes me have lots of questions. It makes me watch my back. And I'm serious. How would you feel if your wife, your daughter, your sister, your mother, or just a real good friend of yours, another woman, was being followed by a city employee based on what? The fact that I go to the cemetery every single day? What is the real reason behind this? Was this to intimidate me? Because I'm not intimidated. I'm pissed as hell. I'm not intimidated. I will not be intimidated. Is it so she can set me up so she can have me arrested? Because that's what she did to Zach Clare. So I'm going to do a FOIA request and I'm going to ask for some of the same things that Claire was asking for in 2019. And I'm going to ask for them in 2025. And if she has me arrested, someone needs to take this video and someone needs to take the video that I have in from the event itself. And they need to take it to the police station and they need to take it to the judge because this is insanity. And these are public servants who are working at a job on our tax dollars that you and I pay for them to be there. And they're supposed to be working for the city, for us, the city citizens. If that's how she treats me, how does she treat people who are in the worst moment of their life, having to make arrangements to bury their loved ones? Does she treat them with kindness and respect? I hope so. I hope I'm mistaken. Or does she treat them with less than kindness? Is she rude? Does she yell at them? Does she stalk them? I don't know. I'd like to know. If your experience has been less than positive with this director, I don't know that I need to know. It'd be nice to know for my own validation, but it would be more important that you go to the city and tell Jamie, forget Jamie's last name, Jamie Garrett, who is the chief operations officer, and let her know that someone who's supposed to be working with the public is not easy to work with. If that's not your experience, that's great. That's fine. I understand. But I'm blown away by the behavior I witnessed. If you want to know what I'm talking about, this is my most recent video prior to this one on my YouTube channel, and I will put the link on my Facebook page as well, my personal Facebook page. That's my rant. I don't know where to go with this from here, other than to investigate why. Um, I mean, I'm curious why they hired somebody from out of town. She lives in Alabama. She works in Columbus. She works for the city here, but she's not invested here. She's not part of our community, but she has a big chokehold on our community. She runs the hitching lot. She runs two places where public events can be held. She runs both city cemeteries. It's a lot of time that she should be interacting with the public and should have really good people skills. So, my dog just came up to visit. If she doesn't have real good people skills, why is she in that position? Um, it is a public facing position, and one would think that would be an important aspect. Um, maybe something's wrong. Maybe she's not well. Maybe she needs training. I don't know. All I know is it was an incredibly disturbing experience, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone else. And um, I hope she never treats any of your loved ones the way I was treated, especially if your loved ones are dealing with a loss and trying to figure out how to um, carry out the final wishes of their loved ones. So I want to thank you for coming on my podcast, Tom Bigby Tales. If you have any bits you think you could add, anything that might be helpful for me to know, any of your own personal experiences related to this Rogena, it's Rogena, Rogena Bonner from the city of Columbus, do share. I'll be following up on Monday. After I filed my public records request, I will come back on and I will do an update of what I file. And let's see what we can find out about what's going on over there that this is transpiring, because it's something isn't right. And it definitely was an abuse of power, and it was someone acting like a bully. No one in our town should be treated like that. And no one, or visitors to our town, and no one should tolerate that. Thanks again. Until next time. I'm Shannon Evans, and this is the Tom Bigby Tales.